FBI is now investigating the death of a black man who died in police custody.
Cold case that turned hot again after more than 20 years.
The evidence led detectives to one of their own.
How often do you hear the story of cops in blue turning in their badges for a lifetime of orange jumpsuits? But if we look deeper into the legal system, there are many cases that might seem more like they belong in a thriller than in real life. In today's video, we'll talk about the 10 most corrupt cops in history who are serving their life sentences in prison. Number 10. Derek Chauvin. Most of us know about this ex-police officer from Minneapolis who became the face of a massive movement after a video surfaced of him kneeling on George Floyd's neck for over 9 minutes. Floyd's tragic death not only rocked the nation, but also sparked global protests against racial injustice and police brutality. Chauvin joined the Minneapolis police force in 2001, and by 2008 he was training new recruits. But here's the thing. Over his career, he had 18 complaints against him, though only a couple led to any disciplinary measures. And believe it or not, the incident with Floyd wasn't his first serious altercation. In 2017, he was among a group of officers who took the life of another suspect. That fateful day, May 25th, 2020, Chauvin and his team responded to what seemed like a minor incident, somebody using a counterfeit $20 bill. But it escalated quickly. When they found George Floyd, they cuffed him, and soon after, Chauvin was on Floyd's neck, leading to his heartbreaking demise. The nation was on tenterhooks when Chauvin's trial began, and when the verdict was announced, guilty on all counts, it was a monumental moment. He was sentenced to 22.5 years behind bars, but his reaction? Surprisingly calm. He briefly offered condolences to Floyd's family, but stopped short of showing real remorse. And then, adding to the drama, he tried appealing his conviction, citing a biased jury in an unfair trial. Number 9. Roger Rogerson and Glenn McNamara. In Sydney, 2014, a 20-year-old man named Jamie Gow thinks he's about to make the best deal of his life. At the time, he walked into a storage room carrying 3 kilograms of a drug worth an amazing $19 million. Jamie is hopeful and thinks he will be rich by the end of this. But fate had something else planned for him. Security cameras catch Jamie walking into the storage room that same day, but he never leaves. Instead, Roger Rogerson and Glenn McNamara, 2 experienced cops from New South Wales, come into view. Afterward, the police checked Glenn's house and found Jamie's exact amount of drugs neatly packed in a pillowcase. Just to make things even stranger, Jamie's body was found floating near Cronulla Beach 2 days after he went missing. At their trial, these 2 old men didn't put on a united front. Instead, they blamed each other, but there was a lot of proof that they were wrong. Glenn had met Jamie many times in a hotel, and all of those meetings were taped. On the other hand, Roger was found with bullet wounds on his clothes. CCTV footage even showed them getting rid of Jamie's body. However, Roger's life was not so good. Back in the 1980s, he killed a man who had robbed a protected heroin supplier. This was linked to another murder. One story even says he tried to kill another police officer. People hated him because he said that after he shoots someone, they don't go to the hospital, they go straight to the grave. Rogerson, 75, and McNamara, 57, both got what they deserved in the end. They got life in prison after being found guilty. Australia may never have seen such dirty cops before. Number 8. Wayne Couzin. On March 3, 2023, a 33-year-old Sarah Everard was sadly raped, kidnapped, and killed as she walked home from a friend's house in South London. Sadly, that was done by a police officer named Wayne Couzin. But let me tell you an interesting thing. Couzin had some red flags that maybe someone else missed at first. There were reports that he inappropriately showed himself in 2 of his old cars. Some of his co-workers may have also called him the rapist, according to rumors. Some top police officers say they don't know about this nickname, but Sir Thomas Windsor, a very important police figure, said that some did. Now, a separate group is looking into what his co-workers knew or thought about him. During the prosecution, the judge stressed how bad the crime was, especially since Couzin had abused his power as a police officer. He compared it to crimes done for political, religious, or ideological reasons and said they were just as bad. It is certain that Cousin will spend the rest of his life in jail because he was given a life sentence. Number 7. David Oliver. David was a very interesting person. On Facebook, he was known as the funny cop who called crooks mopes and made other funny comments about them. With these posts, he pretty much became a mini celebrity and gained a lot of fans. But things turned around for him. He was charged with many misdemeanors, including illegal restraint, attempted theft, assault, and more. Also, guess what? I think the judge was having a good time when he called Oliver a mope, which is Oliver's favorite word. But this is where things get messy. One of those charges came from Crystal Casterline, another cop. Oliver was her boss at the time, she said, and he went from hugging her to touching her, and even making her dance close to him. It breaks my heart to hear her talk about it all, especially since she was a marathon runner, a mom who loved her kids, and hadn't known what domestic violence was until then. Oliver denied some of the charges, but in the end he admitted everything and hoped that was the end of it. In court, you could tell he was very angry. Number 6. Jeffrey Moreland. It sounds like this story came from a crime novel. Kara Jo Roberts, a mother of 2, was found dead in her bathtub in Harrisonville, Missouri. For 2 years, investigators had no idea what was going on. The only way to go? On a piece of duct tape. There is DNA and a fingerprint. There was no match in the system, though. After a few days, a case that looks shocking like the first one comes up. Nina Whitney, a 75-year-old woman from Kansas City, is the person this time. She was found stabbed and found dead in a running bathtub. This naturally sets off alarms. There seems to be a serial killer in the area. The police get a very important hint from the victim's neighbors. Near her house, they saw a middle-aged guy with a clear limp in a black Jeep. A sketch was made based on what they said, and guess who it looked like? Nina's daughter saw him right away. It was Jeffrey Moreland, who used to be her boyfriend in the 1980s. Also, surprise, surprise, he used to work as a police officer in Harrisonville. For weeks, police tried to get Jeffrey's DNA, but he always got away. He finally lost his luck when he was arrested in a different county for beating up a lady. Good job! The DNA from both crime scenes were the same. Jeff didn't say or do anything during the hearing. He got life in prison plus an extra 50 years for killing Kara. When he realized he was being surrounded, he admitted to killing Nina too, which got him an extra 30 years in prison. Number 5. Joe Ferrari. A police officer in Thailand was known as Joe Ferrari for his bad behavior. True name? Utanapan citizen. The name didn't come from being Italian. It was given to him because he liked expensive cars. He owned a very rare Lamborghini, Aventador, and a Versiero, as well as Ferraris, Porsches, and other great cars. Imagine that he had 29 expensive cars parked outside his big house. The really interesting thing is that this isn't even why he became popular. In August of 2020, something very scary happened. Some people think that the 24-year-old man and his girlfriend are drug dealers. This young guy and Joe Ferrari agreed to drop all charges in exchange for a certain amount of money. But all of a sudden, Joe raised the price by $30,000. When the boy fought back, Joe and his deputies did something no one could imagine. They tried to get him to pay right there in the police station by smothering him with a plastic bag. It's sad that the young man died. They almost got away with it for a while. To hide it, they said that the young man died of an overdose. A video of the event, however, got out and showed their dark secret. In the end, Joe Ferrari was caught after running away to Myanmar. It was a big deal inside the courtroom. Joe seemed calm and even shared some laughs before the decision. When they were finally found guilty, though, things changed. He was given the death penalty at first, but later was commuted to a life in prison because he tried to save the victim after the attack and paid for her funeral. He also got life terms for most of his partners. Number 4. Stephanie Lazarus. In December of 1985, Sherry Rasmussen, a young woman, married John Rudin, the love of her life. It was scarier when John found his wife dead at home only 3 months after they got married. After being shot several times, someone left bite marks on Sherry's arm. People in the neighborhood were talking about recent thefts by 2 Latino men, which led detectives to follow up on that tip. It looked like someone had broken into their house. The case went cold, though, because it ran into a wall. It's been 23 years, and now the cold case unit wants to try again. The DNA from that bite mark on Sherry's arm was looked at again. The plot gets more complicated when the DNA shows a female suspect instead of a male one. Well, you can guess where that led them. They went back to their own police station. Step forward, Stephanie Lazarus, who is a police star. Now for the backstory. John was seeing Stephanie before he met Sherry. Stephanie apparently couldn't let go after John moved on, which is why she stalked and even threatened Sherry. The detectives chose to set a trap because Stephanie's DNA matched the clues they found on Sherry's body. They put her in a room with a secret camera so that she would tell them the truth. They asked Stephanie, "John Gruden?" But all she says is confusion. Finally, she got 27 years to life in prison for killing Sherry. Number 3. Carl Walden. It's July 1998. A lot of people are setting off fireworks, grilling, and enjoying the summer sun. That being said, the day is much darker for the Zafar family. Heartbreaking news comes to them. Sammy, a family member, was found dead in the woods near a parking lot. At first, it doesn't appear that the investigation is moving forward until someone in custody provides information about a covert crime ring that Carl Walden, a well-respected officer with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, shockingly heads. Carl was known for being honest. He worked hard, did a good job, and was quickly becoming the sheriff. Carl did have another side, though. When he moved to the drugs unit in 1996, he and a few other cops, including Jason, Reginald, and Eric, started hanging out with the wrong people. They even worked together with James Swift Jr., Carl's brother-in-law, and another police officer. Their evil plan? Not only taking drugs from the drug dealers, but also cash. They didn't stop there either. Soon their operations included normal people who were not working for them. This is where Sammy's story comes back. One of the police officers, Eric, had seen Sammy regularly taking out large amounts of cash from the bank where he worked as a security guard when he wasn't working. Eric was desperate and hired a drug dealer to rob Sammy. It worked, and they got a huge $50,000, but that wasn't enough to satisfy their hunger. A few months later, after Sammy took out another large amount of money from the bank, Carl pulled him over in his official police car. Even though Sammy knew something wasn't right, Carl was also adamant that he keep his money with him. The next thing that happened was very bad. Carl calls another police officer and makes it sound like Sammy might have to be killed because he saw Carl's face. Carl does what he said he would do and kills Sammy in an empty parking lot. By December of 2000, the police have finally apprehended Carl and his gang. After plea deals and statements, Carl gets 4 life sentences and a big fine to pay back what he stole. An officer named William Bear was one of the many people who testified against Carl. But what Williams did not know was that his turn in the courtroom was almost upon him. It looks like the lines between thieves and police officers were less clear than ever in this story. Number 2. William Bear. In 1999, the people of Deerwood, Minnesota were rocked by the shocking murder of Assad Goff, a local convenience store owner. For almost 2 decades, his murder remained a mystery. Investigators only had the DNA profiles of a man and a woman from the crime scene. Fast forward to 2018, when advancements in DNA testing led to a groundbreaking revelation. The DNA is traced back to 2 unexpected individuals: William Bear, a respected detective with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and his then-wife, Melissa Schaefer. William had spent a commendable 27 years in the sheriff's office, retiring in 2002. He even opened a top-notch private investigation agency afterward. However, there was a dark side to him that few people knew about. Around the time of Goff's death, William was part of a financial crimes task force investigating the money laundering tactics of individuals like Goff. In fact, William's assignment involved keeping tabs on Goff's banking activities. Things took a darker turn when William discovers Goff's habits of keeping a significant amount of cash at his residence. Instead of just surveilling Goff, William and Melissa plot a heinous plan. On that fateful night in May 1999, the duo attacked Goff. William stabs him in his garage, while Melissa confronts and threatens Goff's wife, Samar. She ends up revealing where they've hidden $53,000 in their kitchen. Before making their escape, the duo ties up and gags Samar, leaving Goff to die. 2 decades pass before justice finally catches up with them, with Melissa's testimony against William in exchange for a 30-year sentence. And to avoid the looming shadow of the death penalty, William confesses to the crime. At his sentencing, his attorney tries to highlight William's career achievements, but the judge isn't buying it. William's decorated service background only adds to the tragedy of the tale. In the end, William receives 3 concurrent life sentences, concluding this long chapter of betrayal and justice. Number 1. Marcus Eberhard. Back in 2019, Eberhard had a serious lapse in judgment. He tased William Marshall, a 38-year-old with a history of narcotics and some non-violent run-ins with the law, for way longer than the department's guidelines. We're talking about 40 seconds of electrocution. Tragically, it ended up being fatal. Eberhard had been on the force for several years, and by most accounts he had a clean record. No major disciplinary actions or anything. But some whispers around town hinted he might have been a bit more aggressive than your average cop. The prosecution claimed that Eberhard's excessive force led to Marshall's death. On the flip side, the defense was saying Marshall's drug use and health issues were the actual culprits. In a landmark decision in February of 2022, Eberhard becomes the first Michigan cop to be convicted for a taser-related death. He was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter and a misconduct in office. The aftermath? He's looking at up to 15 years behind bars. After the verdict, Eberhard didn't react at all, just stony-faced. Though his lawyer voiced his disappointment, Eberhard eventually put out a statement apologizing to the Marshall family. Which of these shocking stories stands out to you? Or maybe we missed a case? Write your answer in the comments section below. And if you already haven't, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more thrilling content just like this.